أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. Mereka memikirkan tentang kejadian langit dan bumi seraya berkata, "Ya Tuhan kami, tidaklah Engkau menciptakan ini dengan sia-sia. Maha suci Engkau, maka peliharalah kami dari siksa api neraka."
Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Fattah, Ya Alim, iftah qulubana فتوح العارفين. أستغفر الله العظيم، أستغفر الله العظيم الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم وأتوب إليه توبة العبد الظالم لا يملك لنفسه ضرا ولا نفعا ولا موتا ولا هو الحي القيوم وأتوب إليه توبة العبد الظالم لا يملك لنفسه ضرا ولا نفعا ولا موتا ولا حياة ولا نشورا. أستغفر الله العظيم، أستغفر الله العظيم، أستغفر الله العظيم. سبحان الله وبحمده، سبحان الله وبحمده، عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم. سبحان الله وبحمده، سبحان الله وبحمده، عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. أستغفر الله العظيم، Astaghfirullah. nafas tak bergerak lagi, tanah perkuburan kita bersemadi. Ya Tuhan, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, ampuni kami. Ya Tuhan, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, ampuni kami. Mayat terbujur telah dikafan, dibawa pergi sanak saudara, dikubur tempat akhir pesanan, tinggal di dalam gelap gelita. Ya Tuhan, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, ampuni kami. Ya Tuhan, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, ampuni kami. Talqin dibaca, ingatan diberi kepada semua yang hidup lagi. Talqin dibaca, ingatan diberi kepada semua yang hidup lagi. Jadikan tauladan kesedaran diri, kubur yang sempit siksa sekali. Ya Tuhan, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, ampuni kami. Ya Tuhan, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, ampuni kami. Hidupnya insan tiada yang abadi, menunggu saat panggilan azali. Hidupnya insan tiada yang abadi, menunggu saat panggilan azali. Hilanglah nafas, tak bergerak lagi, tanah perkuburan kita bersemadi. Ya Tuhan, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, ampuni kami. Ya Tuhan, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, ampuni kami. Astaghfirullahalazim, Astaghfirullahalazim, alladzi la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum, wa atubu ilaih taubatal abdi zalimi, la yamliku li nafsihi darran wala naf'an wala mauta wala hayatan wala nusyura. Astaghfirullahalazim, Astaghfirullah, الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم وأتوب إليه توبة عبد الظالم لا يملك لنفسه ضرا ولا نفعا ولا موتا ولا حياة ولا نشورا أستغفر الله العظيم أستغفر الله العظيم. Hidupnya insan tiada yang abadi, menunggu saat panggilan azali. Hilanglah nafas, tak bergerak lagi, tanah perkuburan kita bersemadi. Ya Tuhan, ya Allah, ya Rahman, ampuni kami. Ya Tuhan, ya Allah, ya Rahman, ampuni kami.
selepas 2/3 kepulauan itu ditenggelami air. 32 orang terbunuh termasuk seorang pelancong warga Britain, sementara 51 lagi masih hilang. Turut terjejas lapangan terbang.
Astaghfirullahalazim. Astaghfirullahalazim. Alladzi la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum wa atubu ilaihi taubatal abdiz zalimi la yamliku li nafsihi darran wala naf'an wala mauta wala hayatan wala nusyura. Ya Latif ya Kafi ya Hafiz ya Syafi Allah ya Latif ya Kafi ya Hafiz ya Syafi Allah ya Latif ya Wafi ya Karim anta Allah la illallah la ilaha illallah maksud la ilaha illallah la ilaha illallah ma'bud la ilaha illallah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. Allahumma inna nas'aluka bi annana nashhadu annaka antallahu la ilaha illa anta al-ahadus samad alladzi lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Allahumma inna nas'aluka bi annana nashhadu annaka antallahu la ilaha illa anta al-ahadus samad alladzi lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Allahumma inna nas'aluka bi annana nashhadu annaka antallahu la ilaha illa anta al-ahadus samad alladzi lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Allahumma innaka ta'lamu asma'ana wa tara makanana wa ta'lamu niyatina wa hajatina wa maqasidana. Taqabbal ma natamanna wa la tukhayyib raja'ana ya karim. Allahumma arinal haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah. Ya Allah, tunjukkanlah kepada kami bahwa yang benar adalah benar, dan jadikanlah kami orang-orang yang mengikuti kebenaran itu. Wa arinal batila batilan warzuqna ijtinabah. Ya Allah, tunjukkanlah kepada kami bahwa yang salah adalah salah, dan jadikanlah kami orang yang pertama dan utama meninggalkan kesalahan tersebut. Allahumma hdina fiman hadait, wa afina fiman afait, wa tawallana fiman tawallait, wa barik lana fima a'tait, wa qina wasrif anna birahmatika syarra ma qadait. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-afwa wal afiyah. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-afwa wal afiyah. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-afwa wal afiyah wal mu'afata ad-daimah fid dini wad dunya wal akhirah. Allahumma la sahla illa ma taj'alahu sahla wa anta taj'alul hazana was sa'ba idza syi'ta sahla. اللهم اجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا اللهم اجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا اللهم اجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا وانصرنا على من عادانا ولا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا ولا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا ولا تسلط علينا بذنوبنا من لا يخافك فينا ولا يرحمنا ربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وأدخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز يا غفار يا رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم بفضل سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Dia dua kali ya, mula tu dia tak apa. Kau pelan. Kalau mau dua tu ya banyak yang pondok rumahnya.
Berapa? Dua.
Dia dalam negara satu tengah dua ada.
Yang main tu terasa lah.
Memang nampak dia nampak putih kan.
Oh tu.
Ha.
Ada yang ni.
Ada. Tang tu orang lah. Ada sana orang. Ha? Oh, dari lembah Lembah ah. Enggak tak rumah. Nampak dah. Enggak ah. Ha? Dia memang tu. Okey. Buat nampak. Buat tu. Ada tu kena sampai sana. Lah, duduk sembahyang asar, ada roh, duduk sembahyang zuhur. Masa sembahyang lepas Tok Imam bagi salam, kami baca doa. Bila baca doa tu, lepas baca doa tu dengar budak-budak tu menyerit lah atas atas masjid tu. Bila lepas tu Tok Imam pun bangun. Tok Imam tengok ayat tu mai. Lepas tu Tok Imam kata banjir besar. Lepas tu kami pakat-pakat azan lah masa tu. Azan lah masa tu. Dan nampak alun duk main tu. Kami pakat-pakat azal lah yang tu yang kami minta pada Tuhan yang lain tak ada apa lah. Habis dia main sekali lalu.
Dia main sekali lalu kan?
Dia main sekali lalu.
Ya dalam masa berapa minit juga?
Dalam masa lebih kurang 10-15 second saja. Oh, dia main tu nampak
sekali
tu.
Ya no.
Sekali. Lepas tu lebih kurang 20 minit tengah jam lah je ya. Lepas tengah jam dia main lagi. Sekali lagi. Jadi 2 kali dia main.
Dekat yang bantu ada kematian ya?
Yang sekat yang saya tahu dia panggil 3 orang mati. 3 orang mati.
Mati bang.
Encik daripada mana ni? Jangan ni apa nama? Pemberita kah?
Ya, ni memang kita nak hantar pergi masuk berita.
Terima kasih banyak-banyak lah. Kerana ambil gambar kami ni. Tu tengoklah habis semua ni sampai rumah belakang-belakang ni. Belakang-belakang habis sampai padi-padi orang je tengok. Tak ada apa yang tinggal habis, abang hanyut habis semua dah.
Tengok memang tak boleh nak habis. Ha. Di benda. Tak.
Tok Gempa tu. Benda tu tolak naik. Dia hantar naik. Tu yang jadi betul tu. Habis
Yang kedua 20. Ayak mula dia lantun naik tu. Naik berlaut tu. Pada awal ke Bukit 9 dia punya dia gempa. Dia gegak awal. Dia gegak, dia rasa semua kelang-kelang. Lepas tu depa Bukit 1 tu ayak mula naik. Dia naik angin tu. Dia mula naik. Terus ke sampai pukul 2 sampai pukul 2 tu dia mula naik ayak. Naik perai ni mula. Ingat tak apa kami duduk atas rumah ni duduk bang. Pakak bang semua. Yang orang puan ni Allah. Kita tak ada apalah doa tak ada ah. Tenggelam muncah lah semua kat bang ah. Bila bang dia surut mengejut. Pakak turun tengok. Turun jalan tengok apa muka ni. Habis tu dia main kali yang kedua pula. Dia lebih kurang dalam setengah jam. Dia main dia naik sampai sini. Terus rumah terpilut habis tenggelam. Habis terbalik. Wallahi habis dengan kereta dia hanyut.
Dinding merkeh sebelah.
Habis tu
Pak dah lagi di rumah.
Balik dah laut.
tak pi kan ni dah kena yang put dikira yang selamat tu ada 5-6 buah. Yang lain semua terbalik, yang kelai, yang hak bewa apa semua ni beramai-ramai.
Kakak ni maklumah hak mati dapat berapa orang kakak ni tahu tak? Penuh kan?
Penuh habis. Barang-barang makan ke habis lupa. Orang perempuan ni teriak yang menangis ni macam budak ya Allah. Masing-masing makan cari anak lah. Allah. Saya tak pernah nangis hari ni. Jom, tak. Dekat. Ya. Ya. Yang mau abang ah? Nama dia. Alhamdulillah lah tak ada tu. Tapi ni barang orang atas eh. Atas buruk.
Abang saya
Nak bangga.
Macam abang eh?
Ya.
Macam ni dia bawa daripada sana kan
Dia dari sini.
Dari sini.
Sana, ha.
Oh, tarik main ni.
Dia ada kat pokok tu tadi.
Kalau lemah. Oh, payah dapat lah. Lembah yang hanyut ke darat. Kalau mau lembah yang hanyut ke darat.
Yang mana?
Lembah.
Ha? Lumba ni.
Saya nampak sebelah sana dah nampak ombak lah.
Ombak. Alun naik.
Ombak yang putih, ada putih panjang ni.
Tinggi tak?
Ini. Kemudian belakang dia pun ada tu-tu sana.
Oh, benda itu dia berlapis-lapis ombak lah.
Lapis-lapis ha.
Mula naik tau.
Mula naik ha. Kemudian dia pun gajah lebih jauh pasal ni. Yang kuat yang kedua, yang paling kuat tu. Yang bawah kan ada ombak ni kan. Yang pertama kuat yang kedua.
Ada dalam ombak.
Semua habis. Semua habis.
Habis.
Ada semua habis.
Tak ada awak naik atas kan?
Ada. Kita tak tahu. Masa saya keluar banyak kat dia.
Oh,
rumah ha. Mandi lah saya dekat-dekat tu. Tak ada gambar budak-budak awak selamat benda.
Gubuk dia bisa apa semua ni. Akan tengok dia kayak gubuk. Dia planting ni dia gubuk habis kebal ni. Baik apa? Nak tengok apa? Ha? Ada pedangkai apa tu? Dah ikut order dah.
Memang tu tadi.
Duduk tau ni. Abang pindah duduk dalam tangkosian tu. Kemudian bila dah duduk tangkosian tu, dia rasa rumah duduk macam tu.
Goyang?
Ha?
Macam goyang?
Ada goyang.
Ha. Dia waktu tu dia ada banjir apa tak ada lagi?
Tak ada lagi.
Oh, tak ada lagi?
Awal lagi pukul 9 suku.
9 suku no.
9 suku. Kemudian lepas daripada 9 suku, abang parti tu buka nyok mampus tu.
Ha.
Duduk macam tu. Wayar semua duduk macam tu.
Ha.
Kemudian abang kata ni kau gempa.
Ha.
Habis relax lah.
Ha.
Apabila relax, abang ada satu manyat. Bagi tadi.
Ha.
Budak.
Dia pun nak simpan ni lepas mandi tu.
Simpan dia
Ha.
tu. Kemudian dia tu abang pergi semayang mayan.
Ha.
Bila balik semayang mayan, mai tempat kenuri. Bila abang pergi tempat kenuri, dia kata hang keluar tengok, hang pergi kat Zia dia. Oi kat Zia. Jom pergi lah. Dia tu dah lepas abang kata hang keluar tengok. Abang lari pergi sana. Keluar tengok. Alun biru bukan alun putih. Tinggi. Alun kalau duduk tadi pandangan dia tu pokok nyok tu. Alun dia.
Pergi pokok nyok.
Tinggi pokok nyok tu. Alun biru tu. Kemudian dalam masa 5 minit saja abang balik main rumah. Dia kata dah sampai. Umur tu buat lari. Bila lari abang terlampak pergi tu tengok semua dah tembok dah sampai. Bila tembok dah sampai, okey. Pakat dah kebet semua. Kan? Minta doa taklah bagi selamat lah semua. Tengok. Berhenti dah berhenti. Kemudian dah berhenti abang pun jalan sana jalan sini. Tengok pandangan rumah dah habis.
Waktu mula awak mula.
Ada barang-barang yang berguna sikit dia tahu apa teruk ya. Dalam jalan sampai tang buka nyok tang kedai tu, abang 2 orang dengan bangsup. Bangsup kata man, lari dia pun duduk macam ni lah. Dakam buka belam tu. Abang pun dan capai baju dia ya. Tidak mati ya. Capai baju dia dakam. Kami tak kebet di situ dengan bang apa semua. Dia main ni ya Allah punya tu Dia ni. Habis main-main kali yang kedua paling dahsyat kali. Semua bang habis. Semua ni pun habis. Habis apa nak buat? Dengan AC, dengan apa semua. Dengan duit dalam rumah pun tak ada cakap lah yang tu. Habis semua. Film kena pun tak tahu lah. Ini semua ayat semua tu kan. Hantar belakang.
Dia pi tu memang tak boleh tahan. Pi bawa gitu kan.
Kalau budak belakang.
Ini budak seorang.
Salah budak tak jumpa ni dia orang. Letak hanya di belakang ni.
Anak ke?
Budak.
Bukan anak belakang dia.
Anak belakang.
Nak makan?
Ha.
Dia ada buat tadi jembok ni.
Sekarang tak
Tak
jumpa.
tahu mungkin dia lepas di belakang tu.
Lepas dari belakang ni tadi dia lari dari sini.
Allah. Umur
Dia
awak
lari
dah?
tadi lari duduk atas tunggu tu.
Seorang tu 7, seorang tu 4.
2 orang lah.
Ada orang.
Kalau kata ayat parah ni pun budak-budak. Memang dia
Mak ya.
Tadi buat-buat lah.
tak ada apa. Sebab saya dengar kata abang dia
Tengok orang belakang kan.
tangkap dia tak dapat. So dia dah sampai lah.
Dekat long yang bantu yang meninggal buang.
Yang meninggal lah yang
Ingat kalau tak tahu di hujung simpang. Di hujung simpang sana dia rekod. Sebab orang sana pun ada lagi ramai. Ada yang tak jumpa lagi. Orang dalam sana. Atas ni ada tadi pokok orang, 2 orang. Pokok blok ah.
Nah, yang meninggal lah.
Okey, lepas mas.
Dari orang putih Florida main sampai bukit tu.
Ada ni. Dekat lah kat habis lah. Dah lagi dah. Kat Indo baju dia tu ambil kat Indo tak? Ha? Baju. Kotor dia.
Ni tak ada. Ni kalau kau biar kan rumah je. Ambil ada beg ni ambil pun ambil kita.
Dia bonik tambuk lah.
Lawak. Kejap tak payah. Ambil dah tadi.
Lumur-lumur akan dukung.
Lembut ni poh nak poh kan.
Nampak ha?
Oh boleh dukung boleh.
Poh bukan ya? Bukan poh kan. Pasal dia ada lubang lantai ah.
Okey. Oh. Ni barang rumah abang ni ah?
Ya.
Oh, dibawa main bayi semua?
Oh, betul dalam.
Ya Allah.
Ya. Boleh buat apa? Kotak.
Baita?
Kotak abang lepas.
Tahu dari main sekali. Bala main. Semua kena ha. Dia tak kira apa.
Bateri ke? Ni ya, bateri ni ya. Bateri ni.
Lah kita nak akan berangkat balik. Assalamualaikum.
إنا منزلون على أهل هذه القرية رجزا من السماء بما كانوا يفسقون ولقد تركنا منها آية بينة لقوم يعقلون وإلى مدين أخاهم شعيبا فقال يا قوم اعبدوا الله وارجوا اليوم الآخر ولا تعثوا في الأرض مفسدين فكذبوه فأخذتهم الرجفة فأصبحوا في دارهم جاثمين وعادا وثمود وقد تبين لكم من مساكنهم وزين لهم الشيطان أعمالهم فصدهم عن السبيل وكانوا مستبصرين وقارون وفرعون وهامان ولقد جاءهم موسى بالبينات فاستكبروا في الأرض وما كانوا سابقين فكلا أخذنا بذنبه فمنهم من أرسلنا عليه حاصبا ومنهم من أخذته الصيحة ومنهم من خسفنا به الأرض ومنهم من أغرقنا وما كان الله ليظلمهم ولكن كانوا أنفسهم يظلمون
Holy crap!
The waves, known as tsunami, can move at up to 400 miles an hour. Out in the ocean, they aren't usually that high. But look inside at what happens as the waves approach the coast. The peak of the waves is forced upwards. Today they were several stories high, and behind them comes a vast and destructive mass of water. The cause of this disaster lies in the pattern of tectonic plates dividing the Earth's surface. The boundary between the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate is especially active. Where the earthquake struck, the two plates are colliding, forcing the seabed to jolt by as much as 10 metres. The effect was felt right across the ocean, the quake generating a series of tsunami waves. So how does this compare with previous quakes? Well, the one in Bam in Iran last year measured 6.3 on the Richter scale. This one measured 8.9, the biggest for 40 years. And as to the waves, Papua New Guinea 6 years ago was struck by waves 17 metres high. Today's were 10 metres, still among the most dangerous of recent times.
This is just crazy. Look at it. It's just covering the screen.
At the British Geological Survey, experts were left stunned, not by the location of the event, but by its scale.
This is known to be an active area which has produced large earthquakes in historical times, but you can't tell exactly when an earthquake is going to strike.
But the waves took up to 3 hours to strike, so could there have been a warning? There is a system for monitoring tsunamis in the Pacific, but the people beside the Indian Ocean had no chance.
Good evening. More than 11,000 people are now thought to have been killed in southern Asia after an undersea earthquake sent enormous waves rolling across the Indian Ocean. The quake measured 8.9 on the Richter scale, the biggest in the world for 40 years. Waves up to 10 meters high engulfed the coasts of many countries. The quake's epicenter was off the island of Sumatra in northwestern Indonesia, where more than 4,000 people are thought to have died. In Sri Lanka, officials say more than 3,000 people have been killed and more than 1 million affected. In southern India, 3,000 people, mostly fishermen, are reported dead. At least 300 have been killed in southern Thailand, including some tourists, and hundreds of people are missing. And waves swamped the low-lying Maldive Islands, leaving the capital Male 2/3 underwater. Gareth Furby reports.
This was Sri Lanka as the seawater flooded inland. Thousands have lost their lives here. And government officials say more than 1 million people, around 5% of the island's population.
Data jumlah korban maupun mengetahui jenis tanah.
Across 6 countries in southern Asia, the death toll is now rising as the terrible picture of damage emerges. These pictures are from Indonesia, where the president has now declared a national disaster, and state media says more than 4,000 people were killed on the island of Sumatra, in a coastal region closest to the earthquake.
Menurut Rusdi Harjo, kota Mulaboh antara yang teruk dilanda bencana terletak di barat Pulau Sumatera. Ia mempunyai penduduk hampir 150,000 orang. Kota yang berkedudukan 150 km dari pusat gempa bumi hanya boleh ditinjau melalui udara. Manakala Pulau Simula yang berdekatan mempunyai penduduk sekitar 70,000. Sehingga kini usaha untuk menyelamat terganggu kerana keadaan jalan dan infrastruktur yang rosak teruk.
Gegaran berlaku jam 11.51 pagi waktu tempatan dan berpusat 25 km di barat daya Jayapura. Aceh turut merekodkan gegaran susulan berukuran 5.2 pada skala Richter di perairan barat laut, berhampiran Medan jam 4 pagi tadi waktu tempatan. Malam semalam 2 gegaran susulan sekuat 5.1 dan 5.2 pada skala Richter turut menggegarkan Sumatera. Gempa bumi ini berlaku selepas gegaran sekuat 9 pada skala Richter di wilayah Aceh Ahad lalu. Gegaran di Aceh juga mengakibatkan bencana tsunami yang meragut puluhan ribu nyawa di seluruh Asia. Angka kematian rasmi akibat gempa bumi Aceh meningkat kepada lebih 52,000 orang dengan seluruh perkampungan di pesisir pantai kini ditenggelami air. Jurucakap Pertubuhan Kesihatan Dunia di Asia Selatan, Harsaran Pandey berkata, hampir 5 juta penduduk seluruh Asia terjejas akibat bencana tsunami hujung minggu lalu. Antara 1 hingga 3 juta mangsa yang terjejas ialah di Indonesia, sementara 1 juta lain di Sri Lanka. Angka kematian ini dijangka meningkat lagi berikutan kebimbangan merebaknya wabak penyakit yang boleh menggugat nyawa mangsa yang terselamat.
The numbers coming out of Indonesia just stun the senses. An estimated 80,000 dead with tens of thousands missing. So the toll may get even worse. Our reporter Scott Bevan has just landed in Aceh near the epicentre of this catastrophe, and we're crossing to him by satellite phone. Scott, thanks for joining us. Now, what are your impressions as you are right there in the middle of this global catastrophe, the centre of it?
Well, Helen, they're very much first impressions. I've just landed. You can probably hear the whine of the jet engines in the background. We corkscrewed down from several thousand feet up, and the closer we got to the Earth, the greater the picture we saw of catastrophe and calamity. The water has obviously rushed in. Awesome this tidal wave must have been.
Now, Scott, 26 brave Australian medical specialists have been sent there. What are they going to be thrust into straight off?
Well, they're being thrust into a town that's still very much trying to find its feet. At the airport right now, we've got relatives arriving with boxes and boxes and boxes. They're trying to, I guess, fill the gap that exists at the moment for everything and anything to get on with life. And of course, the official teams coming in from Australia are going to be expected to pick up that slack even more so. There are thousands injured. Here in Banda Aceh alone, they're still trying to work out just how many. But for the whole of northern Sumatra, where Aceh is, it's estimated today that the death toll is over 45,000, could climb to 80,000. So that's what medical teams are facing first up. But then, of course, there's the second deadly wave, and that wave, of course, is disease.
Yeah.
From not enough food, impure water, and, of course, piles of corpses lying around.
Now, of course, their job is going to be so grim and difficult because the infrastructure there has gone. They're virtually starting from scratch, aren't they? Trying to do surgery, infection control, amputations, I guess all that.
Exactly, and there is a field hospital, an army field hospital to come in and be set up. We saw in PNG in 1998 the absolute influence of having a good army field hospital here. I'm sure that'll be repeated again. We've got Australian engineers coming in as well to start work on infrastructure. A team of army engineers are coming on the HMAS Canimbla, leaving Sydney tomorrow. There's a water purification plant, a mobile plant that is currently in Medan, just south of here. It's coming up here to try and fill that gap of water, which is absolutely critical here at the moment.
Well, Scott Bevan, we'll hopefully hear from you again tomorrow, and I do appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen.
Wow. Jangan bubble. Go.
Well, the epicenter of the earthquake was deep beneath the Indian Ocean, yet the destruction has been spread across a huge region. The quake triggered a giant wave of water, which spread across thousands of miles of the Indian Ocean.
On a beach in Thailand, the crowds flee in fear as a wave approaches. This did not turn out to be one of the really big ones to strike. But the power of these waves has caused devastation here and along thousands of miles of coastline across the entire region.
And here is the moment when the ocean starts to spill onto the street. This is amateur video from holidaymakers in Thailand at the resort of Phuket. And captured on the same camera, one of the waves, its power about to be revealed. For many tourists in southern Thailand, this was a paradise. Not anymore. Survivors here evacuated on the island of Phi Phi, well known to many as the perfect setting for the movie The
Ja. Hey, loop daar als je stad en alles in.
Nee, loop daar nog helemaal door.
Ja? Hey, die auto's. Hey, auto's, die drijven gewoon weg. Ja, daar boven.
Daar, kijk. Daar, boven de dak. En op die naartoe rijden. Daar. Daar zie je daar zie je
Hey, kijk het restaurant. Hey, die mensen daar, die is weer zwemmen, die staan er bovenop.
Die zijn daar gezet in de auto. Hier bij de rode dak.
Ja, er zijn er nog meer.
Get up! How do that? Higher? That's there should be someone knowing that that's still recording, isn't it? I've got all the sound.
Ongelooflijk. Komt hij direct op de kust af. Ik kan mijn baard even wegkomen. Moet je eens kijken, hier. Hier, daar gaat de boot. Ongelooflijk. Honderden mensen staan te zien. We reden toevallig voorbij toen het net gebeurde. Kijk wat met het bootje gebeurt. Zie je wat een grote golven? Dat is niet normaal. Kijk. Even kijken. Oh, daar komen de golven hoor. Ik sta hier wat hoger, dus ik denk dat ik hier wel veilig sta. Ongelooflijk. Hier komen de golven hoor. Oh, dan ga ik even naar de kant. Ongelooflijk. En waarschijnlijk de enige die hier gaat filmen. Kijk. Ongelooflijk. Je ziet de auto's hier. Ongelooflijk. Mensen die zwemmen daar, proberen de boten te redden. Heel veel mensen die waren ook in zee aan het zwemmen toen het gebeurde. Met mijn kleine kinderen en zo. Iedereen probeert. Hier mensen die alles hier los te slaan. Ongelooflijk, je ziet het wel, grote jongens zijn helemaal losgeslagen, kunnen amper meer lopen. Het water dat sloeg je dus net met... Ongelooflijk. Een hele grote boot, moet je eens kijken. Ik kan heel even blijven filmen. Er komt een nieuwe. Ik hoop dat alle mensen naar het water zijn. Moet je eens kijken jongens. Hier, daar gaat hij. Boom. Daar komt de golf. Moet je eens kijken jongens, 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 jongens. Oh. Kijk die boot, kijk die boot. Een hele grote boot is het. Daar gaat hij hoor. Er zitten mensen aan boord. Zie je dat? Er zijn mensen aan boord. Hier. Eens kijken. Ongelooflijk. Ik ga nou op met dit gebied gooien. Allemaal verloren. Oh, ongelooflijk. Ongelooflijk. Oh, ongelooflijk. Niet te geloven. Oh man, hier. Hé, daar gaat hij. Hier. Boom. Boom. Oh. Kijk, ik sta gewoon in een halve meter water nu. Ongelooflijk. Die boot is op een kant geslagen. De boot is op een kant geslagen. Motors, alles. Moet je eens kijken. Ongelooflijk. Ik hoop dat ze het nog doen. Ik ga nog maar gewoon weg. Eens kijken hier. Hier.
Dia ni yang dia lục ni leh, long bố đi. Long bố đi.
Chẳng nó chuyện gì nữa.
Setakat ini Kementerian Dalam Negeri Thailand mengesahkan 1,975 mangsa terkorban, sementara 6,043 lagi dilaporkan masih hilang. Pegawai pasukan penyelamat berkata separuh daripada mangsa yang hilang itu terdiri daripada pelancong barat. Antaranya Sweden dan Jerman menganggarkan lebih 1,000 warga masing-masing dilaporkan hilang di Thailand. Norway menganggarkan 446 warganya masih hilang, sementara Menteri Luar Perancis Michel Barnier berkata beberapa ratus warga negara itu turut hilang di Thailand. Australia pula masih cuba mengesan 800 warganya di sekitar Pulau Phuket ketika bencana melanda. Bangkok mengerahkan 20,000 petugas termasuk bantuan bagi mengesan mayat mangsa untuk dikebumikan segera dengan keadaan cuaca pada tahap 33 darjah Celsius. Pasukan forensik Thailand yang kekurangan kelengkapan kini dibantu beberapa pasukan forensik asing yang dikerah ke negara itu.
Well, let's talk now to our correspondent Chris Hogg, who's been following events in the Thai capital, Bangkok. Chris, summarise for us the impact on Thailand.
Well, I think starting off with those holiday areas, the pictures that you've just been looking at, hardest hit the island of Phuket and the much smaller island of Phi Phi nearby. Although the effects of this earthquake were felt as far away as here in the capital, Bangkok, it's those islands that were hit so hard by these walls of water where we've seen the greatest numbers of deaths and casualties. The latest information we have from British officials is that at least 10 Britons are in hospital. Now that number is likely to rise over the next few hours. It's still the early hours of the morning here, and as I speak, consular officials are travelling around the main hospitals in Phuket trying to establish just exactly who's been injured and who might be missing.
And what are the emergency services managing to do in the worst hit areas? Have they managed to get to all the areas that have been affected?
No, they haven't. Now, one of the biggest problems that they've got is a lack of power. When these walls of water hit these beaches, they didn't just do so much damage to the unfortunate people that were on the beach or swimming in the hotel pools on the side of the beach, but of course they dumped all this debris onto the streets and in many cases tore down power lines. So part of the problem that they've had working through the night has just been establishing power. Then you've got this second issue, which has been touched on a little earlier, of just trying to contact these outlying islands. You have to remember that this area, as well as those big islands that we've been focusing on, there are lots of little settlements. And in the next 2 or 3 hours, as first light comes, one of the priorities for the emergency services, for the Thai Army and Navy forces who've been mobilised to help in this relief effort, will be to try to contact those outlying areas just to try to find out the scale of the devastation there.
What stories are you hearing, Chris, from people who actually survived this? It must have been an absolutely terrifying experience.
Well, indeed, and I think some of the most remarkable are from people who were on holiday and who were just doing the most normal things, sitting there having breakfast with their children. There was one Swedish tourist who said she was having breakfast on the beach with her husband when one of her 3 children raced over, crying out, being followed by this huge wave. The family followed other foreign tourists who were evacuated to the hills. They stayed there for hours without food. I can tell you it was a very warm day in southern Thailand today. They said locals brought them water. Finally, they returned to the seaside, and then the Thai people came again and shouted, "The waves are coming, the waves are coming," and they had to drop their food and run off into the hills again. It's those kind of stories that give you a real idea of just how horrible for these people that were having these amazing Christmas vacations in these beautiful white sandy beaches, turquoise waters, and they've just had them turned into a nightmare.
Chris in Bangkok.
Oh my God, look, it's just coming in now, right over the swimming pool. Shit. Get inside! Get inside! Come on, guys! We've got to get out here. We'll be alright for this one. Shit, how high is it going to go? Fuck. Okay, I'm getting frightened now.
Apa yang anda saksikan ini adalah rakaman dramatik bencana tsunami oleh seorang juru kamera amatur di Sri Lanka. Menurut Colombo, angka kematian rasmi kini mencecah 22,799 orang, sementara 4,059 bangsa lagi dilaporkan masih hilang. Bencana alam ini turut mencederakan lebih 8,000 bangsa lain dan menjejaskan 600,810 penduduk. 35,597 kediaman musnah teruk dan lebih 134,000 keluarga terjejas.
And from a tourist in the Maldives, this account of her survival.
We didn't realize, we just saw a water plane coming up and towards the building and people from outside screaming, and then we saw the water come in the building and very fast.
Pictures from Indian television show the water overwhelming large areas of the coast. Hundreds of fishermen are among those reported missing. India's Prime Minister says everything possible will be done to help those affected.
My heart goes out in sympathy to all those families who have lost their dear ones.
Sri Lanka has declared a national disaster and is appealing for international aid. And aftershocks remain a possibility.
Well, as we've been hearing, India, one of the worst affected countries. Let's get the latest now from southern India. The BBC's Matthew Grant joins us on the line from Madras. Matthew, what is the latest that you have on the casualty figures there?
The latest figures in the state of Tamil Nadu are about 1,700 people being killed. There's also hundreds more in neighbouring states, Andhra Pradesh, and even round on the west coast of India in Kerala, a place where many tourists like to go. There have been deaths reported there as well.
And are there many more people still reported missing?
Yes, there are. In Andhra Pradesh, at least 400 fishermen were said to have gone out to sea or were out at sea this morning. They're definitely still missing. Some fishermen's bodies have been washed ashore throughout the day, but I don't think anyone has really got a sense of what's happened to all the people who were out at sea when this struck. The Indian government is doing everything it can. It's describing itself as being on a war footing now, and it's sending helicopters and boats and doing everything it can to find out what is going on. But there are definitely still people missing, and on the more remote parts of the coast it may be that people are missing or they may be dead, but really nobody's getting very much information from those remote villages as of yet.
We've heard terrible reports from the area where you are of many bodies being washed up on the beaches. How are they coping with the sheer number of bodies there?
I think nerves are a bit frayed and fraught at the end of the day here. In the hospitals, there's some pretty chaotic scenes with people rushing around, wailing, trying to get any news they can about missing relatives. I was down on the main beach here in Madras just an hour or two ago, and again, pretty sort of chaotic and slightly tense atmosphere. A lot of people hanging around, some of them looking pretty shocked, others sort of just trying to find out what's going on, and very kind of sort of nervous atmosphere even now. So people are still struggling to come to terms with what happened. I mean, it's just an incredible shock to the city.
Matthew Grant in Madras.
Hello, Helen Daly with you again. Tonight, as the Asian tidal wave's toll of death and destruction continues to mount, more extraordinary stories of courage and compassion. And one Aussie mother has revealed the almost impossible choice she was forced to make. Trapped in the deadly surge of the tsunami, Gillian Searle tried to hold on to her 20-month-old baby and her 5-year-old son, Lockie, who can't swim. Then she realised she wasn't going to be able to save them both.
My baby and I were getting swept through, and I remember looking back at my 5-year-old boy thinking that would probably be the last time that I would see him alive, because I knew that he couldn't swim.
See, the lady was holding on to me, another lady that was in Phuket, and then she had to let go of me, and I went underwater and I had my mouth open.
Lockie Searle is a remarkable 5-year-old. His family believe only a miracle helped him survive the tidal wave that tore through their Phuket hotel on Boxing Day.
I just heard a terrible loud roaring sound, and I turned around and I just saw masses of water just coming for us, and I straight away thought, how am I going to keep my 2 children alive?
Because this ain't all together.
After the first wave hit, Gillian Searle saw a young girl clinging to a post, and knowing she couldn't hold both her children, pleaded with her to take her eldest son.
I had both my children, and I took my 5-year-old son's hand off mine, and I put his hand onto her, and I said, take my son. I didn't want to do it. It was hard letting go of making him take his hand off mine. I could feel him squeezing me. He said to me, don't let go of me, Mummy, but I knew I had to.
While Gillian was fighting for her life, her husband was desperately trying to get down from their hotel room to help his family.
The water level was too high and he couldn't open the doors. And then I found a bar on the ground, and I tried to sort of get that into the door and leave the door open. And the second one came, and I just held on to there was a bar there, and I jumped up onto the top of that.
And I was just screaming, and I just wanted my husband, and it felt like an eternity before I saw him, and then I saw him, and I said to him, I've lost Lockie.
After the second tidal wave passed, Bradley found his wife and baby son, but there was no sign of Lockie, and Gillian was beside herself with fear.
I just said to him, I said, you don't understand, you have to find him, because I let go of him. I gave him to somebody else, and I let go of him, and I can't live with that. There's no possible way that I can live my life knowing that I took his hand off mine.
I was trying to search for him, and I yelling out, but all the car horns were stuck on, and cars had just been slammed into walls.
That's like a crocodile.
For 2 hours while his parents searched the grim water, fearing the worst, brave little Lockie was alone in the dark, clinging on to a door frame.
I think when I was up the water, I see the door, so I was holding on to the door because I was putting my finger through the other closed door.
Then we could hear people saying, Lockie, Lockie, it's Lockie, it's Lockie. All the people that had been looking said it's... And the policeman carried Lockie to me, and he was perfect.
4, 5...
Despite some injuries, the Searle family know they are the lucky ones.
It's very sore and swollen, and I bruised myself here.
It can only go 2 ways. It can either be a really happy ending, or it can be a really bad ending, and luckily it was a happy ending.
After their brush with death, this family are quite happy staying at home for a while. And it's Christmas all over again for brave little Lockie.
We're taking him to the toy shop today, and we've told him he can have whatever toy he wants.
This week the world has learned a lot about tsunamis, too much in fact. For one thing, they can't be stopped. And there's no early warning system for the giant tidal waves in the Indian Ocean. The federal government says it will try to get such a system put in place. But even that is no guarantee that we'll be able to avert another wide-ranging disaster.
Here is this disaster's ground zero. 6 miles deep off the coast of Sumatra, the Earth's plates separated on the ocean floor. That created long waves of water and a shock wave moving, at least initially, 500 miles an hour, the speed of a jumbo jet. And when those waves neared shore, well, they had only one place to go. The scenes from thousands of miles away of the helpless, of children, of everything being swept away. All that, of course, nothing short of heart-wrenching. But the reality is the world has long been under attack by tsunamis, mostly in the Pacific, and never on the east coast of the U.S., at least not yet. Some scientists say, though, it's a matter of when, not if. Just look at the scenes from some popular science fiction movies, like The Day After Tomorrow and Deep Impact.
Well, it sounds like science fiction, but the real situation is that we have a group of volcanic islands called the Canary Islands off the coast of northwest Africa. They're active volcanoes, they're very unstable, and one of the islands, La Palma, has a volcano called the Cumbre Vieja on it.
Professor Maguire has been studying the active La Palma volcano, which began to collapse in a 1949 eruption. But that collapse didn't fully happen. Instead, half the volcano moved just a few feet down the slope.
A massive chunk of rock, maybe the size of Manhattan Island, started to slide towards the sea. At some point in the future, that whole mass of rock will drop into the North Atlantic, and it will generate waves, which we've modelled as being maybe 300 or 400 feet high initially, but being maybe 50 or 60 feet high when they hit all down the east coast of the US and Canada.
Maguire says his group believes that when the volcano next erupts, 20 years from now, 200 years from now, there's really no way to know. When that happens, the molten lava will heat trapped rainwater that is collected in the rock for centuries. The pressure will be too much, and 500 billion tons of rock, 500 billion, will plunge into the North Atlantic. And that could create a landslide-based tsunami with waves much bigger than Sunday's earthquake-based waves.
And it's going to be big enough to involve the entire Atlantic Ocean.
Scientists do agree we need a global tsunami warning system like the one in the Pacific. Sensing devices on the ocean floor that can tell if a giant wave is moving in the deep ocean, and then relay the message to buoys on the surface. They send a message by satellite to monitoring stations, and then to places like Cannon Beach, Oregon. They test periodically that tsunami siren, but instead of the real siren, they use a recording of a cow.
Test.
So that people won't actually head for the hills.
If you talk to people about disasters, they're going to say tornadoes, hurricanes, thunderstorms, lightning strikes. In most cases, you're going to get warning on those kinds of situations, or you're at least going to know that they're in the neighborhood and there's the possibility of it. This is something that starts underground. What happens underground, we're not watching as carefully, as closely, because there hasn't been as much activity. There hasn't been as much damage. Now that there's a greater need, people will probably respond.
And a warning is about all science can do right now, although tsunami experts desperately wish we could do it in every ocean and everywhere. Professor Maguire says he hopes that Spain, which controls the Canary Islands, will start monitoring Cumbre Vieja again. His group will be watching.
We're in fact planning to use radar satellite imagery, maybe look at the volcano on a regular basis to see how it's deforming in the future.
So how real is all this? Walls of water rushing across the ocean? Well, some scientists say we might as well worry about an asteroid hitting the Earth or being struck by lightning. All possible, but not likely. Of course, the hard reality is there's no way to prevent a tsunami.
But there are certain types of tsunamis that can strike so suddenly and with such force that even the most sophisticated system would be unable to provide a warning.
Here in the Hawaiian Islands, where all of the land is built by volcanic eruptions, the islands grow up from the sea floor, and then periodically the sides slide back down onto the ocean floor. They've created magnificent cliffs along the sides of all of the islands in the chain. But when those chunks of the island slide off onto the Pacific Ocean floor as huge landslides and debris flows, they have the potential to generate giant destructive tsunamis. And there's evidence that they have created waves as high as 1,000 feet on some of the islands in the past.
These landslide waves may be part of Hawaii's future as well as its past. Here on the Big Island, a huge crack in the earth is opening up. It's 60 miles long, and it's growing wider every year. Some scientists think it's gradually detaching one side of the island from the other.
The Great Crack is one of these fault zones. At one time it may have actually had magma in it, but now it's probably serving more like a hinge where part of the island is beginning to slide down and may someday slip away toward the ocean floor.
A 1,000-foot tsunami on the coast of Hawaii would be catastrophic. But a giant tsunami could happen anywhere, even without earthquakes, volcanoes, or landslides. A few scientists are beginning to examine another possible cause, extremely remote, but terrifying.
Recently, the effects of a meteor impact have been studied. Depending on the size of the meteor, you could have some very destructive waves generated by a splashing of a meteor in the ocean. You could have a wave formed hundreds of feet high. It is probably the surprise no one's prepared for.
A giant tsunami generated by a meteor may only happen once every few thousand years.
This is the Hawaiian island of Oahu. Professor Gary McMurtry from the University of Hawaii believes a landslide 2 million years ago here on this island created a wave possibly several kilometers in height, devastating the west coast of the Americas.
Half the volcano is missing. It's out at sea. There are huge landslide blocks. It was probably one of the largest, if not the largest, landslide ever on the planet. Over 3,000 cubic kilometers. It must have created a huge tsunami.
Once scientists understood that landslides into water could produce mega tsunami, the hunt was on to find out where the next massive landslide would occur. Geologists knew that large volcanic islands have a tendency to collapse. The search led to a volcanic island which shows disturbing signs of instability. And this is it, La Palma, sitting off the west coast of North Africa in the Canary Islands. British scientist Dr. Duncan Cobb has studied the research and has travelled to the island to see for himself.
If you look to the east, this part is much higher than the western part. The throw here is about 4 meters or so. And what's happened is the western side of the volcano, the western flank, has slipped by about 4 meters. Now, it's only a small gully here, a small part of the fissure, but geologists know that it extends for a much greater length of the island.
It began to look like one half of the volcano had started to part company with the other half and was heading towards the sea. Then it abruptly stopped. So will the next big eruption finish the job? Sending 600 billion tons of rock, the size of Greater London, plunging into the sea? If so, the wave is going to be colossal. The big question is, where will it end up?
If the models are right and the western flank of the volcano were to slip into the ocean, you're going to generate a huge wave, something like an initial height of 650 meters high, travelling at a velocity of 720 kilometres an hour. Let's just think about those figures. That's larger than any man-made structure on the Earth, travelling at about the velocity of a jumbo jet, and it's all heading towards the east coast of America.